So if anyone has seen Spinal Tap, and I appreciate this is not the demographic, or the film Best in Show, this is exactly like that, but for the theatre kids. Oh my god, hey, welcome back to my theatre-themed YouTube channel. My name is Mickey Joe, and I am obsessed with all things theatre. I am also a professional theatre critic and a content creator living in the UK, but today, I'm not talking about a theatre show at all. No, I am going to be talking about a film, which is going to be just as strange an experience for me as it is for you, but we'll all get through this together. The reason why I'm talking about this film is because it is theatre themed. I am talking about the new 2023 release from Searchlight Pictures, Theatre Camp. Hold on, it's on my t-shirt. There we go. Theatre Camp. For all my English viewers, this is how the Americans spell theatre. ER, right here. Take it in, process, move on. So this is a new little mockumentary comedy from Molly Gordon and Nick Lieberman, who direct and have co-written it, along with Ben Platt and Noah Galvin, both of whom you will recognise as musical theatre stars in their own right, and alumni of the musical Dear Evan Hansen, in which they both played Evan Hansen. And I believe Molly Gordon was also in Alice by Heart with Noah Galvin, and is also a childhood friend of Ben Platt. They went to theatre camp together, an experience which has inspired the making of this whole film. It's all very incestuous, but in a nice way. So this started life as a short film in 2020 and is now a full feature, and I got invited to a very exciting screening of it earlier this week in London. Now, before we get into this video, I do want to issue a disclaimer, because the whole of the film industry is currently in a little bit of limbo due to the ongoing strikes. Both the writer's strike and the actor's strike mean that the way in which we would normally promote film releases is a little bit different right now. And influencers in the US have been actively discouraged from engaging in promotional activity for new film releases, because the actors who are on strike aren't able to promote their own films without crossing a picket line, so this would constitute taking work away from those actors and trying to circumvent the effectiveness of this strike action. However, critics and reviewers have been encouraged to continue to review film releases. And so because I fall somewhere complex in the middle of the critic and influencer Venn diagram, I have decided to review this film regardless, but I'm not doing a heavy-handed amount of promotion of it on my social media page, which honestly is a shame, because in this current climate, it's films like this one that are going to suffer the most. This is not a Barbie with a Barbie-sized budget, and it would absolutely kill me if this movie came and went without theatre fans around the world finding out how much they might enjoy it. That being said, I am fully supporting all of the strike action going on right now, both for the writers and for the actors. They all deserve to be paid a living wage. They all deserve to have their demands and their requests met, so they can continue to make such entertaining stuff as the film we're going to be talking about today. So, with no further ado, let's talk about the movie Theatre Camp. So this film is about a theatre camp that takes place in the Adirondack Mountains. It is called Adirondacks, which is a genius level pun that I don't think gets enough respect in this film. And it's been founded by a woman named Joan. At the beginning of the film, we meet her touring around the country, going to schools and trying to get parents to sign up their kids for this theatre camp because they need the money. However, during a performance of Bye Bye Birdie, Joan slips into an unexpected coma, throwing everything into a little bit of turmoil. Her role in running the camp is then taken over by her son Troy, who considers himself something of a business influencer. However, we pretty quickly find out that he's not great at this, nor is he particularly switched on, and he knows absolutely nothing about theatre. He struggles to connect with the kids at the camp as well as the other members of staff, who are the next people that we meet, and they are eccentric, off-the-wall personalities, exactly the kind of people that you might expect working at a theatre camp. We meet the codependent acting and music teachers, who have been joined at the hip ever since they were best friends at camp together themselves. Neither of them have gone on to work professionally, but they take themselves incredibly seriously nonetheless, and every year they write one original musical to be performed at the camp. This year's being an homage to the chaotic life of their comatose leader, Joan. There's also an exceedingly camp dance teacher, a very down-to-earth costume designer, as well as a new member of staff who straight up lied on their resume and has no idea what they are doing. Not to mention the mild-mannered tech guy who may have hidden talents lingering beneath the surface. Add in a busload of aggressively enthusiastic performing arts teenagers, and you have the chaos that is theatre camp. And what we see is the duration of their time at the camp documented in this mockumentary style. We find out what shows they'll be performing, we see auditions, classes, rehearsal footage, late night activities, and a heavy helping of emotional and financial chaos swirling in the background. So I really enjoyed this film. Tonally, it's not necessarily what I was expecting it to be. It's really offbeat and quirky, which I enjoy. Like I mentioned before, it's a mockumentary style, a bit like The Office and Parks and Recreation, or films like This Is Spinal Tap or Best in Show. But that as a framing device fades into the background because pretty early on we do away with the narration. There aren't really confessionals to camera. We just see scenes playing out the same way they would in any other film. But the way that it's been shot and the cinematography makes it all feel like camcorder recorded footage. It feels very natural and real and authentic while being completely silly and insincere. But it's just so funny. There are so many laughs throughout, alternating between stuff that's objectively funny and stuff that's funny to a theatre audience, because there are so many niche theatre jokes, and not just musical theatre jokes. Like, there's a heavy helping of musical theatre jokes and references, but also like niche theatre stuff. Like, there's Chekhov jokes in there, and not in a way that's inaccessible either. But if you really know your theatre, which I suspect many of you do if you're watching my channel, then you're going to have so much to enjoy about this film. The performance scenes are terrific. We get to see a lot of the musical called Joan Still at the end, which features a bunch of original songs that I unironically love. I almost wish we got to see more of the performances. When they announced the shows that will be performed that year at camp at the beginning, it made me so excited, and then we didn't really get to follow up with all of them because, understandably, we focused on the original musical Joan Still, which was really central to the plot of the film. But it could have been an hour longer and I'd have been thrilled. I wanted to spend more time in this world with these characters and see more of the performances. I think, honestly, there could be a TV show here, like The Office or Parks and Recreation. It features those same kind of eccentric, zany characters, and there's enough meat and substance that you could draw this out for multiple episodes, and we could see more of the rehearsal, we could see more of the kids, definitely, and we could see the rest of the performances that were announced for that year at camp. You could even do multiple seasons, because every year is a new year at camp, and the same kids keep coming back year after year. But they grow and they learn things about themselves, and there's an emotional heart beneath all of the silliness in this as well. At the end of this film, I started to cry, actually, because there's a beautiful moment where something that is initially presented for laughs and initially feels a little bit insincere gets turned on its head and gets turned into something really meaningful and really beautiful with no change to what it actually says. I don't want to spoil too much for you here, which is why I'm not going into more detail about what this is, but I was thoroughly moved. And effortlessly, despite being so silly and so farcical, they managed to immediately connect to the emotional heart of the camp experience, which is not something that really gets touched on for the duration of the film. Everything is played for comedy, but then in a split second, they manage to reveal what's so lovely about it. Being a theatre fan, I prefer the theatre camp stuff to all of the sort of looming tension in the background, and like the character of Troy, who is this business influencer, and a businesswoman who is flirting with him and trying to acquire the camp. I don't really need for us to spend as much time as we do with those characters, but it makes it feel like a well-rounded narrative. I just want to see more of the theatre stuff, because obviously I do. I also want to see more of the kids, because the kids are so fantastic in this film. They're so great, they are so completely scene-stealing, and I want us to spend even more time with them. Which feels like a pretty good segue for me to talk about the performances in this film. So let's start with Ben Platt and Molly Gordon, real-life childhood theatre camp friends who with this film are reminiscing on their experience. They play the characters of Amos and Rebecca Diane, which is just a beautifully ridiculous combination of names. Amos is self-indulgent and insecure. You see him getting threatened by the talent of one of the kids at the camp who has already worked professionally, and he's very resistant to accepting that she's good at what she does. And he's deeply neurotic, which is something that Ben Platt plays very well. It's what he did well in the Netflix series The Politician, but tonally this puts it in a much better place, simply because it takes itself much less seriously and we're able to laugh at his character. So opposite him, co-writer and co-director Molly Gordon plays Rebecca Diane. One lovely little detail about her character is that she is also spiritual, and she tries to channel Joan from her comatose state. There's a great little scene where she's telling all of the kids at camp about some of their past lives. But again, everything is played with such a dedicated seriousness. There's a brilliant little scene that's in the trailer where they're telling this group of kids that they're fantastic, they're so talented, and then she says in the same breath, "This will break you, this will emotionally destroy you." And that's one of my favorite laughs from the film. I don't want to say it's the heart of the film, because I think the kids are really the heart of the film, and there's another performance as well, but certainly one of the hearts of the film is the friendship between these two characters, and it gets challenged a little bit during this plot but it's really wholesome and ultimately very uplifting. Next, I want to talk about another of the co-writers, Noah Galvin. He plays Glenn, the tech guy, and there is more to him than there may initially seem to be, but he's already so funny at the beginning of this film. He is very mild-mannered and nervous, but there's a brilliant sequence where he's trying to come between Troy and this businesswoman as they're having a conversation about him selling the camp to her, and he's just trying to find excuses to get in between them and like putting up a ladder. He's brilliant. And without me being able to tell you the full arc of his character in this film, he is also incredibly talented. Another highlight is him commando rolling down the side of a hill during the Tech Week segment where he is answering a walkie-talkie and running between all of these different tech rehearsals and putting out fires. Not literally, but almost. Also, I feel like I have to acknowledge it in this video, but if there is one celebrity that people tell me I look like, it is Noah Galvin. I got told this in the bathroom at the screening event. And I don't know if I completely see it, but I kind of get the vague similarity. Weigh in the comment section below. What do you think? Amy Sedaris is brilliant and very Amy Sedaris-esque for the brief moments that she gets to play Joan before she slips into a coma. And Jimmy Tatro plays her son, Troy Rubinsky. Now, he's not an actor I really knew before. I was familiar with his face. I didn't know he was an IRL YouTuber, and he has a massive social media following, and I don't think I've seen any of the other films he's been in. In the theatre sphere, I feel like you kind of get to know everyone, but in the world of film and TV, it's possible for someone's work to be so different to your own interests that they just never overlap and you never see an actor until he ends up in theatre camp. But he plays an initially obnoxious character who I really warm to by the end of this film. I think he's deeply charming, actually. I must also shout out Nathan Lee Graham as the choreographer Clive DeWitt. He is hilarious. He has so many brilliant one-liners, and there's not nearly enough of him in this film. I need much more Nathan Lee Graham as Clive. But finally, the people who steal every scene that they are in are the kids. They are so talented, they are so funny, and so committed and dedicated. Like, to be able to have that strong a grasp of this particular brand of like offbeat, quirky humor and the comic timing that requires while still feeling real and authentic, and performing with such talent, mind-blowing to me. These kids are amazing. And I want to name as many of them as I can. So we have Bailey Bonnick, who plays Mackenzie. We have Kendra Sanchez, who plays Darla. Donovan Colan plays Devon. Vivian Sachs plays Lainey. Alan Kim plays Alan Park. He's so funny. He's aspiring to be an agent while the rest of them are just trying to be performers. Luke Islam plays Christopher L, so talented. Jack Sobolewski plays Christopher S, so funny. And there's many more besides them, but all of them very bright and exciting futures. So who would enjoy theatre camp? I mean, this is the whole reason I'm making this video, to tell you, theatre fans, you are going to love theatre camp. And going to camp is really more of an American concept than a British one. I gather that it's a really big thing in the US, whether it's a theatre camp or any other kind of camp, like going to camp in the summer is a big thing. You see it in a lot of American media, and we have that a little bit over here. There are some organizations like the National Youth Theatre and British Youth Music Theatre that run these like musical theatre camps over the summer, but it's certainly not as popular a thing. However, British people, even if the camp experience isn't going to resonate with you, so much of this film is going to feel familiar if you've done any kind of youth theatre, if you've done amateur dramatics as an adult. The sensibility of it and the passion and the mania are all incredibly familiar. I say that as someone who has done all of those things. Like I said, there are so many great inside jokes about theatre that I don't want to ruin for you, but they are brilliant. There is at least one very exciting Broadway cameo that I will let you find out about for yourselves. And some genuinely great musical numbers at the end. Like the musical they write, it's clearly deeply tongue-in-cheek and it's meant to be odd, but the very last song is almost accidentally legitimately great and has been in my head the entire time since I've seen this film. Camp isn't home. So if you have time amongst all of your theatre trips this month, I would hugely encourage you taking a cinema trip to go and see Theatre Camp. Thank you so much for watching today's new film review. I hope that you have enjoyed. If you did, make sure to subscribe to my theatre-themed YouTube channel. Comment below with what you would like to see me talk about on here next. And I hope that everyone is staying safe and that you have a stagey day. For 10 more seconds, I'm Mickey Joe Theatre. Oh my god, hey. Thanks for watching. Have a stagey day. Subscribe!